There will always be people in life who act as if they are above you, who carry themselves with arrogance, and who try to make you feel small in their presence. It may happen in the workplace, in social gatherings, within families, or even among friends. The truth is, when someone acts like they're better than you, it usually has more to do with their insecurities than with your worth. The key is not to be intimidated, but to respond with wisdom, confidence, and dignity. That's how you protect your peace and earn true respect. Staying calm and composed in the face of arrogance is one of the most powerful skills you can develop. When someone tries to act superior or belittle you, their goal is often to provoke a reaction. They want to make you feel small, they want to draw you into an emotional battle where they can dominate, and they want to feed their own ego by watching you lose control. But here's the truth. The moment you react out of anger or frustration, you hand them the power. The person who can remain calm in a storm is the one who truly holds control. Think about it. When someone raises their voice, insults you, or treats you like you are less than them, what happens if you fight back with the same energy? The conflict escalates. Voices rise, tempers flare, and dignity gets lost in the chaos. But when you stay composed, when you respond with clarity instead of emotion, you instantly shift the dynamic. You show that you are not controlled by their arrogance. Instead of being dragged down to their level, you remain steady on higher ground. This kind of self-control is intimidating to those who thrive on superiority because they can't manipulate someone who refuses to be rattled. Calmness is not weakness, it's quiet strength. It's the ability to remain centered when someone is trying to push you off balance. It's choosing to protect your peace instead of wasting your energy. Think of it like martial arts. The strongest fighters don't always use brute force. They use strategy, patience, and balance. Likewise, in dealing with arrogant people, your calmness is your defense. You let their words pass through you instead of piercing you. One practical way to do this is to pause before responding. When someone says something condescending, take a breath. Don't rush to react. This short pause creates space for you to think clearly instead of responding emotionally. You can then choose your words with wisdom, or sometimes choose silence altogether. Silence, when used wisely, can be louder than words. It signals that their arrogance does not deserve your energy. Another important element of staying calm is controlling your body language. People who act superior are often looking for signs that they've gotten under your skin. They watch for frowns, clenched fists, defensive postures, or shaky voices. But when you stand tall, maintain steady eye contact, and keep your tone even, you communicate confidence without saying a word. It silently tells them, "You can't shake me, I know who I am." Of course, remaining calm doesn't mean you let people walk over you. Calmness is not the same as passivity. It doesn't mean you ignore disrespect. It means you address it with composure and dignity. For instance, instead of snapping back with insults, you can calmly say, "I don't appreciate being spoken to that way." This communicates strength without hostility. You assert yourself without losing control, and that's what earns real respect. Another powerful benefit of calmness is that it gives you clarity. When you're not clouded by anger or frustration, you can see the situation for what it truly is. Often, arrogance is just a mask for insecurity. A calm mind helps you recognize that their behavior is a reflection of them, not of you. Once you internalize this truth, their superiority complex no longer intimidates you. In the end, staying calm and composed when dealing with arrogant people is about protecting your inner strength. It's about refusing to let their attitude dictate your emotions. It's about maintaining control of yourself because self-control is the foundation of real power. Remember, anyone can shout, argue, or lose their temper. That's easy. But it takes true strength to stay steady, dignified, and unshaken. The calm person is the powerful person. The calm person always wins. Would you like me to now expand Keynote 2 into 600 words in the same style so you get a full speech series? You said expand 2 Keynote into 600 words. ChatGPT said, perfect. Let's expand the second keynote. Focus on your own growth and achievements instead of seeking their validation into a 600-word motivational speech segment. One of the smartest ways to deal with people who think they're better than you is to stop wasting energy trying to prove your worth to them. Their approval is not the measure of your value. The more you chase validation from arrogant people, the more power you hand them over your life. Instead, The real solution is to focus on your own growth, your own journey, and your own achievements. When you turn your attention inward and commit to becoming the best version of yourself, their arrogance loses all meaning. You see, people who act superior thrive on comparison. They want you to feel small so that they can feel big. They want you to doubt yourself so that they can appear confident. But here's the truth. Your life is not a competition with them. It's a journey of your own. The only person you should compare yourself with is the person you were yesterday. Did you grow? Did you learn? Did you take one step closer to your goals? If the answer is yes, then you're winning, no matter what they think. Focusing on your growth means investing in areas that truly matter: your skills, your character, your knowledge, your health, and your mindset. Every time you improve yourself, you build a foundation that no one can shake. When you develop your abilities, you no longer need external validation because your confidence comes from the evidence of your own progress. Think about it like this. Imagine someone constantly looking down on you, questioning your abilities, or mocking your efforts. If you spend all your time trying to convince them that you're capable, you're wasting precious energy. But if you pour that same energy into actually improving yourself, working harder, learning more, sharpening your skills, your results will speak louder than their arrogance ever could. Success is the best answer to superiority. Another important part of focusing on your growth is shifting your perspective. Instead of feeling threatened by people who think they're better than you, use them as motivation. Let their arrogance remind you to keep pushing forward. Turn their dismissive attitude into fuel for your progress. Because at the end of the day, the best way to silence those who doubt you is not with arguments, but with undeniable results. But growth is not just about achievements on the outside, it's also about inner strength. When you build resilience, emotional intelligence, and self-awareness, you develop a kind of quiet confidence that doesn't need to shout. Arrogant people may flaunt their accomplishments to feel superior, but true confidence doesn't need to be loud. It's calm, steady, and unshakable. And when you have that kind of confidence, their opinion no longer matters. It's also crucial to celebrate your small wins. Often, arrogant people will dismiss your progress, belittling it as unimportant. Don't let that discourage you. Every step forward is a victory. Every bit of progress adds up over time. Celebrate it because it means you're growing, and growth is the real measure of success. Remember this: when you focus on your own growth, you become untouchable. You stop depending on anyone else to define your value. Their arrogance may remain, but it no longer affects you. You know who you are, you know what you're working toward, and you know that your worth is not up for debate. At the end of the day, arrogant people only win when they can distract you from your own path. Don't give them that satisfaction. Keep your eyes on your goals, your mind on your progress, and your energy on your personal development. The more you grow, the less you care about their opinions. The more you achieve, the smaller their arrogance becomes. And eventually, you'll realize you don't need them to see your worth because you already know it yourself. Would you like me to expand Keynote 3 into 600 words next so we continue building the full speech flow? You said expand 3 Keynote into 600 words, ChatGPT said. Great, let's expand the third keynote. Set clear and healthy boundaries to protect your self-respect into a 600-word motivational speech segment. When dealing with people who think they're better than you, one of the most essential strategies is learning how to set clear and healthy boundaries. Arrogant individuals often overstep, whether by interrupting you, dismissing your opinions, or talking down to you as if you don't matter. If you allow this behavior to continue unchecked, they'll continue to take advantage of it. But when you establish firm boundaries, you draw a line that protects your self-respect and teaches others how you expect to be treated. Boundaries are not about being rude or confrontational. They are about respecting yourself enough to say, "This is the limit of what I will accept." Too often, people stay silent because they fear conflict or don't want to come across as difficult. But silence can sometimes be interpreted as permission. When you don't speak up, arrogant people assume their behavior is acceptable. That's why boundaries are so important. They communicate that your dignity is not up for negotiation. Setting boundaries starts with clarity. You need to be clear about what is and isn't acceptable to you. For example, maybe you won't allow someone to speak over you repeatedly. Maybe you won't tolerate condescending remarks. Maybe you refuse to let others control your decisions. Once you know your limits, it becomes easier to express them when the situation arises. Without that clarity, you risk letting arrogance slowly chip away at your confidence. Now, how do you actually enforce boundaries? The key is calm assertiveness. You don't have to raise your voice or get angry. You simply need to be direct and respectful. If someone constantly interrupts you, you can say, "I'd like to finish my point before we move on." If someone makes a belittling remark, you can respond, "I don't appreciate being spoken to that way." These statements are short, clear, and to the point. They don't attack the person, but they assert your right to be respected. Body language also plays a huge role in boundaries. Standing tall, maintaining eye contact, and speaking with a steady tone all reinforce the message that you mean what you say. Arrogant people often test boundaries to see if you'll back down. But when you consistently hold your ground, they begin to realize that you're not someone they can walk over. It's also important to remember that boundaries are not just about what you say to others, they're also about what you allow yourself to accept. Sometimes the hardest boundary to set is with yourself. You have to remind yourself, "I will not internalize their arrogance. I will not let their words define me." This inner boundary is what keeps you emotionally strong, even when people around you try to belittle you. Another key point is consistency. If you set a boundary once but then allow it to be crossed the next time, you weaken its power. Arrogant people will quickly notice if you're inconsistent, and they'll try to take advantage of it. That's why it's so important to stay firm. Boundaries require practice, and at first it may feel uncomfortable. But over time it becomes second nature and people begin to treat you with the respect you demand. The beauty of boundaries is that they don't just protect you from arrogance, they also elevate your self-worth. Every time you stand up for yourself, you reinforce the message that you matter, your voice matters, and your presence matters. This internal validation becomes far more powerful than any external validation arrogant people withhold from you. At the end of the day, setting boundaries is not about pushing people away, it's about protecting your peace and building healthier interactions. Those who truly respect you will honor your boundaries, while those who don't will reveal their true colors. Either way, you win because you've chosen to respect yourself first. And when you respect yourself, others have no choice but to follow. Would you like me to go ahead and expand Keynote 4 into 600 words now so the full speech keeps flowing smoothly? You said expand 4 Keynote into 600 words. ChatGPT said, perfect. Let's expand the fourth keynote. Practice empathy while remaining strong. Understand their insecurities without being manipulated. Into a 600-word motivational speech segment. One of the most powerful ways to deal with people who act superior is to recognize that arrogance is often a mask. Behind the pride, behind the dismissive attitude, and behind the better-than-you behavior, there is usually insecurity, fear, or even pain. Arrogant people often project strength on the outside because they feel weak on the inside. Understanding this truth gives you a powerful advantage. It allows you to practice empathy, which keeps you from taking their behavior personally. But here's the key: you must balance empathy with strength. You can understand their struggle without allowing yourself to be disrespected or manipulated. When you see arrogance for what it really is, a shield for insecurity, you stop internalizing it. Instead of thinking, "They're right, maybe I'm not good enough," you begin to think, "This behavior says more about them than it does about me." That shift in perspective frees you from the emotional weight of their superiority complex. You don't excuse their behavior, but you don't carry the burden of it either. For example, think about someone who constantly brags about their achievements, cuts others off in conversation, and makes condescending remarks. On the surface, it looks like they're overflowing with confidence. But deep down, that bragging is usually fueled by a need for validation. Their arrogance is a defense mechanism to cover up self-doubt. When you understand this, you can respond differently. Instead of feeling attacked, you can stay composed and remind yourself that their arrogance is rooted in their insecurity. Practicing empathy doesn't mean you accept bad behavior. It means you interpret it with clarity. You don't take their words to heart because you understand that arrogance is their problem, not yours. This mindset allows you to interact with them without letting their superiority complex shake your confidence. However, it's just as important to stay strong. Empathy without strength can lead to enabling, where you excuse their actions and allow them to walk over you. That's not healthy. True empathy is about seeing their humanity, but also respecting your own boundaries. You can say to yourself, I understand why they act this way, but I will not allow it to diminish me. This balance between compassion and strength is what keeps you empowered. One way to practice this balance is by controlling your responses. Instead of reacting with anger or shutting down, you can respond with calm acknowledgement while holding your ground. For example, if someone makes a condescending remark, you don't have to argue. You can calmly redirect the conversation or assert your perspective without hostility. This way, you don't feed their arrogance, but you also don't surrender your self-respect. Another way to apply empathy with strength is to choose your battles wisely. Not every arrogant remark deserves a response. Sometimes the best way to protect your peace is to simply disengage. Silence can be a powerful tool when it's paired with inner understanding. By not giving them the reaction they seek, you rob them of their power over you. At the same time, you remind yourself that their attitude is a reflection of them, not a reflection of your worth. Empathy also allows you to avoid resentment. When you see arrogance as insecurity, you stop wasting energy on anger and bitterness. Instead, you use that energy to remain confident and focused on your own path. You no longer see arrogant people as threats. You see them as individuals struggling in their own way. That perspective gives you emotional freedom because you're not carrying the weight of offense. At the end of the day, practicing empathy while remaining strong is about mastering emotional intelligence. It's about seeing beyond the surface and understanding the deeper reasons behind arrogance, while still standing firm in your dignity. You don't allow yourself to be manipulated, but you also don't allow yourself to be wounded. You rise above, not by fighting arrogance with arrogance, but by responding with wisdom, compassion, and strength. And that combination, empathy with strength, is something no arrogant person can control. Would you like me to expand Keynote 5 into 600 words next so we keep building this full motivational flow? You said expand 5 Keynote into 600 words. A ChatGPT said, great, let's expand the 5th keynote. Surround yourself with people who genuinely value and uplift you into a 600-word motivational speech segment. One of the smartest choices you can make when dealing with people who think they're better than you is to carefully choose the company you keep. The truth is, no matter how strong or confident you are, the people around you have a powerful influence on your mindset and self-esteem. If you constantly surround yourself with individuals who belittle you, dismiss your ideas, or try to overshadow you, their arrogance will slowly drain your energy. But when you spend time with people who genuinely value you, respect you, and uplift you, it reinforces your confidence and reminds you of your true worth. Life is too short to give your best energy to people who only want to make you feel small. Instead, seek out relationships that empower you. These are the people who listen when you speak, who celebrate your victories, and who encourage you to keep going when times are tough. They don't see you as competition. They see you as someone worth supporting. Being around such people creates an environment where you can grow, thrive, and feel respected. Surrounding yourself with positive and supportive individuals doesn't mean you only want people who agree with you. In fact, true friends and mentors challenge you to grow, but they do it with respect and encouragement, not arrogance and condescension. They correct you without humiliating you. They push you forward without pulling you down, and they inspire you without making you feel less. That is the kind of influence you should be seeking in your life. Now, why is this so important when dealing with arrogant people? Because arrogant individuals thrive when you're isolated. If you only interact with people who think they're better than you, you may start doubting yourself, believing their version of reality, and shrinking your potential. But when you have a strong circle of supportive people, their arrogance loses power. You're reminded that you are valuable, that your voice matters, and that you don't need to seek validation from those who refuse to see your worth. Think of it like a garden. If you plant seeds in toxic soil, they wither and die. But if you plant them in rich, nourishing soil, they grow strong and beautiful. The same is true for your spirit. Toxic people create an environment where your confidence struggles to grow, while uplifting people create an environment where your potential can flourish. Surrounding yourself with the right people also teaches you what real respect looks like. When you're consistently treated with kindness, encouragement, and appreciation, you begin to expect that standard in all areas of your life. And when arrogant individuals try to belittle you, it becomes easier to recognize that their behavior is unacceptable. You no longer normalize disrespect because you've experienced genuine respect. Of course, creating a positive circle may require making tough choices. It might mean distancing yourself from those who constantly put you down, even if they've been in your life for years. It might mean saying no to people who drain your energy and yes to building new connections with those who uplift you. This can be uncomfortable at first, but it's one of the greatest acts of self-respect you can practice. It's also worth noting that you don't need a large circle. You just need the right circle. Even a handful of supportive friends, mentors, or colleagues can transform your perspective. Quality matters more than quantity. A single voice that encourages you is more powerful than 10 voices that try to silence you. At the end of the day, surrounding yourself with people who value and uplift you is about protecting your peace, fueling your growth, and reminding yourself that you are worthy of respect. You don't have to fight arrogance alone, and you don't have to carry the weight of toxic relationships. Choose wisely, because the company you keep will either pull you down into insecurity or lift you higher into confidence. When you choose people who value you, you win twice. You gain strength from their support, and you weaken the influence of those who act superior. And that's how you rise above arrogance, not by seeking validation from the wrong people, but by being uplifted by the right ones. Would you like me to now expand Keynote 6 into 600 words so the speech series is fully complete? You said expand 6 Keynote into 600 words, ChatGPT said. Absolutely. Let's expand the 6th Keynote. Rise above arrogance with grace and wisdom. Prove your strength through actions. Not argument to a 600-word motivational speech segment. The final and perhaps most powerful way to deal with people who think they're better than you is to rise above their arrogance with grace and wisdom. When someone acts superior, the natural instinct is often to fight back with words, to argue, or to prove yourself in the heat of the moment. But arrogance thrives on arguments. The more you try to verbally prove yourself to someone who is determined to look down on you, the more you play into their game. The smarter way is to stop trying to win the argument and instead focus on winning through your actions, your character, and your results. Grace is not weakness. It is controlled strength. When you rise above arrogance with grace, you show that you are unshaken, composed, and confident in your own worth. You don't lower yourself to their level by throwing insults or getting into petty debates. Instead, you choose to maintain dignity even when the other person doesn't. This kind of behavior is deeply unsettling to arrogant people because it takes away their power. They want you to react emotionally so they can claim superiority. But when you respond with calm wisdom, you remind them and yourself that real strength is quiet, not loud. Wisdom comes in knowing that not every battle is worth fighting. Some people are so consumed by their ego that no amount of explaining or arguing will ever change their perception. If you spend your time trying to convince them of your worth, you waste energy that could have been spent on building yourself up. Wisdom says, "Let my actions speak louder than my words." And actions always reveal the truth. Think about it. If someone believes they're more capable, more talented, or more successful than you, what is the best way to respond? Is it to argue with them about your abilities, or is it to go out into the world and prove through results what you're truly capable of? Actions silence arrogance in a way that words never can. When you achieve, when you grow, when you live with integrity and purpose, those who once doubted you have no choice but to notice. Rising above arrogance also means refusing to let bitterness take root in your heart. It's easy to become resentful toward people who act superior, but resentment only hurts you. Grace allows you to let go of that poison and keep your focus where it belongs, on your growth and your future. When you hold on to bitterness, you're still giving arrogant people control over your emotions. But when you let go and move forward with strength, you reclaim your power. One of the most remarkable things about rising above arrogance is that it often inspires others. People notice when you choose wisdom over conflict, when you choose dignity over pettiness, and when you choose growth over arguments. Your example becomes a lesson to those around you that strength doesn't always need to shout, and respect doesn't always need to be demanded. Sometimes the most powerful response is simply to live in such a way that arrogance cannot touch you. Of course, this doesn't mean you ignore disrespect. If someone crosses a line, you address it with firmness, but you don't get dragged into unnecessary battles. You correct with clarity and then you move on, proving through your life that their arrogance has no hold over you. In the end, the most powerful victory over arrogance is not in winning debates, but in living a life that speaks for itself. You don't need to argue with people who think they're better than you. You just need to keep rising, keep building, and keep walking your path with grace and wisdom. Let your actions do the talking, because actions cannot be denied. When you rise above arrogance in this way, you show that you are stronger than insults, bigger than pettiness, and wiser than pride. And that is the kind of strength that not only silences arrogance, but also earns true respect, the kind of respect that cannot be faked, forced, or taken away.